Hello, hey, and welcome to Taste of Scotland podcast. I'm your host, Jim Gordon. Welcome. We've got a lot of things I want to tell you about. We're finalizing, fine tuning our plans for our big Taste of Scotland and Celtic Festival. It'll be at the Macon County Fairgrounds on June 18th. That's the Father's Day weekend. So just about a month away. Lots of neat stuff we've got planned for you. In addition to what I've talked about before, we've added another band, Wild Blue Yonder. They're out of Knoxville. They are a traditional Scottish music band, and they will be joining us at 6 o'clock for our Saturday night concert, along with the Jacobites by Name and our headliners, Tuatha Dea. They all are playing on Saturday night. During the day, Saturday, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, we've got all kinds of fun stuff planned for you. This is June 18th at the Macon County Fairgrounds. We have got, besides what I've mentioned, Tuatha Dea, the Jacobites by Name, Rainbow's Inn, a local Irish, traditional Irish band, will be performing. And they'll also be doing our Kayla on Friday night. I'll talk about that in just a second. Norma Jean, my lovely lady, is going to play a little bit for us, do a couple sets. We also have the Cherokee coming over and demonstrating some of their storytelling techniques and the basket weaving and some of their dancing traditional dance of the Cherokee. The reason we do that is because of the connection that the Scottish have always had with the Cherokee in particular, and in this particular area also, because most of us are from the Scotch-Irish heritage, which came down early in the colonial times, and were able to mingle much more than, say, the Germans or the English with the Cherokee. So that's why we always invite the Cherokee, and they are gracious enough to join us and have some fun with us. This is all on June 18th. We also got the games, the Highland games, with the caber tossing and the stone tossing and the sheaf tossing and the throwing, the shot put and the hammer toss. All these are heavy athletics. These are professional athletes that are all a part of the Southeastern Highland Games Association. These are the same people that will be at Grandfather Mountain and a lot of the other games throughout the Southeast. They have a point system that they are competing for, and in ours, we're lucky to have them, and we're real pleased to have them. And they'll be their games will be going on all day long Saturday at the Macon County Fairgrounds. We have a kids section. We're getting that all together. We're going to have a lot of fun over there. Some arts and crafts. We'll also have some junior, little safer versions of the games, as far as the cabers, the toss, and some of these other things. That'll be a lot of fun for the kids. That'll be going on all day long. We've got the dogs, the border collies are going to demonstrate their fine technique in sheep herding, which is really neat. That's something I enjoy. We've got a Highland Coo that's going to come for the kids to pet. That is very much like a cow, but it's got a lot of long hair, and they live in Scotland. And also we have some ponies to come and see and play, some of the little ponies. These will all be at the Macon County Fairground. We've got some good food. We've got Scottish Cottage. They're coming over from Asheville, and they've got that peat smoked flavor that you love to smell. I just love smelling that. And also St. Andrew's Square will be doing some bangers and mash and some fish and chips and some of the traditional Isles from the British Isles, that kind of food. Also Kona Ice, they're going to be there to keep you refreshed with their snow cones that they make there, along with a whole list of vendors. We've got a lot of good, neat vendors that we're looking forward to joining us there. Some clans will have some of the different clan organizations are going to be showing up, along with the Scottish District Families Association. That is 70% of Scots weren't with any particular clan. They were associated with the district whether it be Argyll or Edinburgh or Galloway or whatever. So that organization will be also there. We'll be doing some tartan searches. If you want to come and look up your tartan or what sept or whatever clan you might be associated with, we'll be happy to do that with you. All that and more will be Saturday, June 18th at the Macon County Fairground. On Friday, June 17th, we have our parade downtown. Come one, come all. If you want to come join us in the parade, you got a kilt, or if you don't, you just a part of a particular clan, you want to honor your clan, come on down, march down Main Street with us. We'll have Michael Waters, the piper. He's going to be there leading us down Main Street. We also have the Color Guard and the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts and all the different clans and all the dignitaries will all parade down Main Street about 6 o'clock from Town Hall, go up around by the courthouse there, make the cut back down Stewart Street, and we end up at behind the Rathskellers, where we'll be having our Kaylee Friday night. Rainbow's Inn will be playing and inviting everybody to come out, bring your banjo or your fiddle or your guitar or your drum or yourself, whatever you'd like. Bring a chair too, that might come in handy. We're going to have some fun out there. This is in the parking lot there between Rathskeller and the Attic, who's allowing us to use their parking lot on Friday night, June 17th. Good time there. Gracious Plates, a new restaurant. They took over the place where Roly Poly's was in downtown Franklin, and they're going to be doing our catering, and that should be a lot of fun. They're going to have some, I assume, some bangers and mash and some of the nips and patties and all the fun stuff. This is all June 17th, and June 18th is our big festival, and we've got our 6 o'clock Saturday night on June 18th is when we have our big concert to finish out. And also there is over at the Presbyterian Church on June 19th, they'll be having a special Scottish Kirk there at the church on Sunday morning. Okay, I believe I've mentioned everybody I wanted to talk about as far as the pipe band. Jamestown pipe band is going to be coming. They're Jamestown, North Carolina. They're one of the biggest ones in the Piedmont area of North Carolina. If you'd like any more information, the phone number 830-460-0628. I believe that's one of our board members, and you can give him a call and get more information on all this, or you can look us up at tasteofscotland.org. Okay, that takes care of all the business. Now I want to tell you a quick little story here before we wrap things up today. I'd like to tell you, coming up May 21st will be the 498th anniversary of the coronation of James I. Now, who is James I? Well, he's considered the first real Stuart monarch. There were Stuarts before him. The Stuart family, you know Robert the Bruce. Everybody knows who Robert the Bruce. He was the bad guy in the Braveheart movie, but he wasn't such a bad guy. He was a hero, and he fought for Scottish independence, and was crowned Robert I, and I think it was about 1320 along in there, and he first he had his son David succeeded him as heir. And David II had a lot of trouble and never had an heir of his own. So when David II passed away, the crown went to his sister's son. His sister, Marjorie, who was Robert the Bruce's daughter, had married a Stuart. So their son became Robert II. And he was the actual first Stuart monarch of Scotland. Robert II was followed by his son, whose name originally, and I just figured this out, his name was originally John, but they didn't want another King John in Scotland. It just had too much of an English negative tone to it, and there was also the John Balliol, who the Bruces denied ever having been the king. He was the one that was friends with Edward I, Longshanks, and he was actually put in as King of Scotland for a short period of time during the Wars of Independence there from England, in which Robert the Bruce was eventually crowned. So they didn't want to use the name John. So he changed his name to Robert, and he became Robert III. However, he also had a brother named Robert. So this got a little confusing. He was Robert Albany Stuart, which was a whole other line of Stuarts. Excuse me. Now, Robert II was a frail, not real healthy, Robert III fellow, and he had two sons. His first son, David, Uncle Robert had dispatched. He had him murdered, and this really scared the whole, all the nobles, because if they lost the next heir, then it could be chaos again, and we got another war to go through. But this was exactly what the other Robert, the Albany Stuarts, wanted. He was actually kind of the regency and taking care of things at the government. And anyways, they were feared for the younger son, who was James, feared for his life. So first he hid out on a big promontory rock in the middle of the Firth of Forth, which is that big tributary that comes out there right there at Edinburgh and heads out to the east coast, the North Sea. He hid out there and was going to make an escape to go hide out in France until the troubles went by, but he didn't make it. On the way, they got attacked by pirates who captured James I and took him to London. They were English pirates, and they handed him over to Henry IV, who was the King of England at the time. Henry said, "This is great, awesome." So he had James imprisoned at the London Tower. James at the time was 11 years old. And when his father, Robert III, who was a frail man, heard of this, he didn't last 4 days, and he passed away. It was just too much for him, his son being captured and imprisoned at 11 years old. So King James was now the King of Scotland when his father passed away, but he was a prisoner of Henry IV, the King of England. So our old buddy, Robert of Albany Stuarts, became the governor. He took charge of everything. So he wasn't in a real big hurry to pay any kind of ransom to try to get James back from England. So the good King James ended up 18 years a prisoner in London. First for Henry IV, and then when Henry IV passed away, Henry V, who at first, while he was a prisoner, excuse me, he was more like a guest. He was royalty, and they weren't going, he was treated well. That changed when Henry V took over. He made them all prisoners and put them in the Tower, and along with all the other Scottish prisoners. But eventually he wore down, and James I went back to being more like a guest than really a prisoner. It was, after all, 18 years he was there. He grew up. He actually fought with Henry V against the French and Scottish forces. Because of the old alliance, Scotland and France were still aligned. So in the English wars with France, Scotland was fighting for France. However, their king was fighting for England. Very complicated, but that's the way it works out sometime. So anyways, he grows up. He's 29, pushing 30 years old, and the Robert Albany Stuart has passed away. His son Murdoch is now the governor and regent of Scotland, and he decides, okay, we'll bring our king back. We need him to keep the country in line. So they finally make a deal with Henry V, and James is released and returned to Scotland, where on May 21st, 1498, he is crowned finally after 18 years of being the king, uncrowned. He is finally crowned on May 21st. At that time, he calls his first parliament. This is in Perth. At the time, that was where the seat of his government was in Perth. Uh, excuse me. So he decided he changes a lot of laws, makes it anybody involved in any kind of treasonous act against the monarchy, they can claim their lands and be executed and beheaded. And by the next year, by the next May, he has got the whole bunch of Stuarts who are actually his uncle and cousins. They are all convicted of treason and beheaded. And that's the way he took care of things. James I, he was a very powerful ruler. He brought Scotland out of the Middle Ages, medieval times, and more into the Renaissance. He's the one. He's considered the first real Stuart monarch, and all the succeeding Stuarts, all the way down through James VI and Charles I of England when they united the kingdoms, all the way to Anne in 1707. So it lasted several hundred years, the Stuart dynasty. He made a lot of enemies. James I did, in particular Archibald Douglas, the Earl of Douglas. They didn't get along. He had enemies there with the MacDonalds, the Lord of the Isles, up in the west, in the islands. And so by 1437, this was only 12, 13 years after he had been crowned, he gets assassinated. He is killed, thinking that the Albany Stuarts would be able to take over, but they forgot about his son. But his wife and son survived, and son becoming James II at 6 years old. So the Stuart dynasty remained intact, and that's basically the story of James I. I wanted to tell you that is because on May 21st is the 498 years since his coronation. Okay, have fun. Come see us on June 18th at the Macon County Fairgrounds. We're going to have a lot of fun. We'll learn some more history along the way if you're not careful. See you later. Bye.